You will find out about the secret method which can be used to consistently create talent with any athlete by watching this video. It's a powerful talent creation strategy. It begins with the understanding that the best players all share three things. Number one, they have elite movement patterns, otherwise known as elite mechanics or technique. Number two, the best players learn faster, often much faster than other players. And number three, the best players' bodies are balanced and the muscles are all working and being used, giving the foundation to execute on number one and number two. Saying it differently, these top performers have the best techniques, the best mechanics, the best skills in their sport. Those sport-specific high-level skills are supported by the best basic skills like running, jumping, or other common movements. The second thing they share is that they also know how to learn the patterns fast. Just like a math genius can learn math skills faster than an average person, top athletes expressed a pattern of learning skills faster than an average person. Over time, by learning faster, those elite players' skill acquisition in sport is faster and better, which makes them appear extra gifted compared to a normal player. This extreme talent is simply an expression of the strategy we are talking about, executed over a long period of time. We are here to give a framework on how to catch up to those seemingly unbeatable high-level athletes. Again, the last of the three principles the best players have is that their bodies can get in the right positions in order for them to learn the best movement patterns. To execute the best mechanics, the body must be able to get in the correct position fluidly. A lot of times, limitation in mechanics comes from not being able to get into the right position. It often boils down to that. The body is not working right, some muscles may not be firing, or imbalances may prohibit the body from getting into the right positions. The ability to be in the correct position is necessary for the athlete to have the capability to learn faster and to be able to acquire a top-level technique. Addressing each one of these components opens up a new level of capability for any athlete, as long as they're willing to work and focus and are lucky enough to be in the right environment to unlock this strategy. The goal of this conversation is to give a clear framework of how to create talent. Going deeper on each of the three, we reverse engineer the desired outcome that we all want, having elite mechanics. An athlete who executes world-class mechanics is expressing the best chance to be at the peak of their sport potential. This isn't opinion. In elite sports, the best players all share very similar movement patterns. Whether it's a basketball shot or golf swing, baseball swing, swimming stroke, or a rugby toss, the best share very similar techniques. In contradiction, you might say, some players look different from others. Of course, there are often stylistic differences, but if you look at the pure movement patterns of the proper techniques, critical points within mechanics are all shared by the best athletes within their sport. The stylistic differences are more or less cosmetic. That means if you want to be a top performer, it's really simple. You must acquire the best mechanics, the best technique, just like the top players. If this is not something that you think about every day, you might want to take notes. That is, if you want to give your athletes the best chance to be a top performer. Think of it this way, even with all of the training in the world, you can do all of the strength development, speed and power development, endurance training you want. But if they don't have world-class movement patterns, they're never going to make it. In other words, this is a must-do. It is a must-have for any athlete. It is a must-do for any coach trying to get their athletes to the top level of sport. This is established through many different studies across multiple sports. The best athletes have the most effective mechanics. If you don't have the best mechanics, you don't have the best technique, you will not be a top-level performer. Period. We've established the importance of committing to the best mechanics. Continuing the reverse engineering, we're working backwards from where we want to get, which is world-class mechanics. The supporting step for acquiring world-class mechanics is the ability to learn super fast. Great athletes learn faster than good athletes. Good athletes learn faster than poor athletes. There are different parts of learning. One aspect is simply acquiring the information, knowing what to learn and what to pay attention to. The other part is learning how to learn with your body. We've all experienced trouble with learning with our bodies. If you're an athlete, sometimes you understand what you want to do. You try to do it, but you can't quite get your body to do it the way you need to do it. Guess what? That is a learning problem. We often misinterpret that common experience as talent or lack of talent. That isn't it. That is an expression of poor learning strategy. Athletes can learn to learn like elite players. They can learn to mimic and copy the way that world-class athletes learn. It is a skill that any athlete can acquire. So if you want your athletes to get better fast, if you're a coach who needs to consistently have athletes at a higher level without going out and buying talent, you need to have learning how to learn integrated into your system. You need a strategy to help accelerate the way your athletes learn, regardless of their performance level. It is just as important and as much of an advantage for a Major League Baseball team as for a developmental sports team, and everything in between. Even a university that's getting the almost elite athletes who have a lot of potential, but must get them to another level rapidly to be competitive, the coach needs to focus on accelerating the athlete's learning. How to learn is part of the overall GOAT strategy, which we're not going to go into details of now. Coaches can explore many different options. One option could be basic education for an athlete to understand what's important, exactly what they need to do, and what they're supposed to learn. Another great strategy might be athlete-driven feedback, where you teach a skill and athletes coach each other one-on-one. They get immediate feedback, which is a great, but also gain knowledge through the responsibility of teaching their teammate. Another strategy used at GOAT was developed while coaching world-class athletes. It was proven in several scientific studies to learn movement better and faster. It gains results up to 3 times better than average in the same amount of time. Regardless of the strategy you use, every program must include helping athletes learn to learn faster. Earlier, I used the math genius example. Some argue whether that genius is an innate or learned skill. Most performance experts would call it a learned skill, which may have some advantages in the individual to begin with. But the unusual level of performance comes from a high level of focused practice combined with access to great teaching strategy, learning how to learn deep practice. In sport, the recipe is the same. Access to great instruction, including employing accelerated learning strategies and deep focus, creates the opportunity for elite performance, and, in the case of sport, the acquisition of elite mechanics. Out of the 3 tenets of creating talent we are talking about today, teaching them how to learn is the most overlooked. It is also the greatest path to fast success for coaches and athletes if you're hoping to get a great advantage compared to competitors or to get out of a rut. Often the most overlooked part of any strategy is the key most miss. Moving on, reverse engineering from the goal, going from the highest level of accomplishment, which is the world-class elite mechanics and technique, then gaining the learning strategy to learn world-class mechanics like elite athletes, and now, down to the foundation, getting the athlete's body to work right. In order to fully learn to learn faster, especially when it's time to translate from your brain to your body, the body has to work right. What does that mean? It means that most people have imbalances in their body, one side compared to the other, or muscles that aren't firing, which limits the overall capability of the body as a system, or structural problems which contribute to the imbalance and muscle firing problems. Comparatively, elite athletes, generally speaking, have less imbalances and muscle issues, or they did at one time in their development, than a regular athlete. Because of that, the kind of ground level, getting the body to work right, is exciting. It is the foundation to dramatically increase the potential of performance. It sets the capability for learning how to learn fast by having the body platform work as well as possible as a tool to execute accelerated learning strategies. I'll use a couple quick examples how getting the body to work right impacts learning world-class mechanics. One finds developing athletes who may do many things well but can't do simple things like touching their toes without bending their knees. Many people say things like, "Oh, you have tight hamstrings." That's likely not it at all. If there are no other obvious issues, that probably means the glutes aren't working while the athlete tries to touch their toes and the hamstring doesn't relax. In order to unlock this problem, the athlete needs to learn how to fire their glutes while touching their toes. Then, they will be able to touch their toes with ease, as we said in the beginning, to perform world-class mechanics. Athletes must be able to get into the correct positions. Using the toe-touching example, a body that isn't working right can prohibit the athlete from executing correct technique, which has nothing to do with the talent. It has everything to do with strategy. In the second example, we are talking about the signals that your brain sends to your body. We think of it kind of like traffic. If roads are clear and there is no construction, you can get where you intend to go very fast and efficiently. But if there are detours, if there is construction, if there is backup traffic, then getting where you want to go is a much different experience, and maybe even a much different path. When the body is not working right, it's kind of like the traffic and detour situation. When the body works right, getting the signal from the brain to the appropriate muscles the athlete needs to fire is kind of like the no traffic, clear roads example. So if your body isn't working correctly, even if you have great accelerated learning strategies in your program, when the brain begins to learn how to learn like an elite athlete, that information won't get best used by the body if the body's not working right. In that scenario, the body will not acquire what the brain has learned how to do. How do you get your athletes' bodies to work right? There are many different strategies. You can hire a functional movement expert or physiotherapist. You can take classes on functional movement or similar offerings. GOAT has a new, amazing technology that fills in this exact gap without needing to hire an expert or to take any certifications. The entire GOAT program was built to help coaches and athletes implement this strategy without needing the financial resources of a professional team. In the beginning, we reverse-engineered from world-class mechanics. In execution, we build up with a foundation of getting the body to work right. Then the brain and body can learn how to learn faster, and then the best movement patterns are achieved, a detail that's really important to know as you work on integration of this system. The three components do not need to be learned one stage at a time. They can be learned at the same time. We recommend that all three are learned at the same time because it's not an independent system. Everything works together. While you're working on improving the body, you can also work on the strategy of how to learn faster, which leads to fast improvement in mechanics of your sport, which leads to more excitement and focus by the athlete and coach, which leads to greater execution in the entire strategy. As we come to the end, hopefully you found this helpful and stimulating. The overall strategy is simple. Get the body to work right. Get your athletes to learn how to learn faster, and then focus on executing elite-level mechanics or technique. That's it. It really is that simple. But of course, simple is not necessarily easy. At GOAT, our focus is to help teams and players efficiently implement strategies to accelerate the capability of learning and unlock every athlete's talent. In doing so, we help organizations consistently produce high-level talent, regardless of who walks in your door. If you want to learn more about how GOAT can help you, go to the website, sportgoat.world, or you can email us at goat@sportgoat.world. It's easy. We listen to what your big goal is and help you figure out how to get there. Thanks for listening. Add the must-do component to your program today. Contact GOAT at sportgoat.world and unlock your hidden potential.